Welcome back. The thing I want to talk about today are distractions. So we have Epstein files, we have UFO files released, we have a lot of political stuff going on, finger pointing, we have corruption, we have the Charlie Kirk assassination. With all these things going on, it's really easy to get distracted. What I think a lot of this is designed to distract from and detract from is the illegal movement of young boys and girls for nefarious reasons. I can't say the actual thing because then they'll flag this video. So it's really important for us to understand that there's a lot of things that are being covered up. And I looked into this, and it goes back, like I said, from the beginning of humanity. I looked in my state to see if it ever happened here, and there was a huge ring that was doing that back in the early 70s and 80s. So make sure you're not getting distracted. We need to protect those who need it most. So we're going to start with this here. There's nothing more telling than someone telling you themselves that they're guilty. So with the release of the Epstein files, getting through House and getting through Senate, and then getting to President Trump, and apparently he signed that as well, there will probably be redactions. They probably won't release anything really damning on too many people. The biggest takeaway from this is to see how people start acting now. Now that these are going to be released, watch who starts squirming, who starts panicking. And one of those is Larry Summers.
I think the prospect of Donald Trump being president would be the gravest threat to our prosperity, our security, and our freedom in my adult lifetime.
Wow.
So that's the thing I would worry most about.
So he's saying here back in 2016, the biggest thing he'd worry about with Trump is that it being the gravest threat. But now listen to what he's saying ever since he figured out that Epstein files were going to be released. He spoke to his students in class.
Some of you will have seen my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back from public activities for a time, but I think it's very important to fulfill my teaching obligations. And so, with your permission, we're going to go forward and talk about the material.
He admitted in class, he's a professor, Harvard. He admitted his ties to Epstein and has already pre-apologized for his communications and whatever he's done. We don't know specifically what he's done. There's been no specific allegations that I can find yet. But this is the kind of stuff you're going to start seeing. People are going to know they're guilty, and they're going to start doing damage control. So we'll have to keep an eye out and see who starts squirming.
As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people.
So as many people have pointed out, again, I'm not hardcore right, hardcore left. I think they're all full of crap. I think politics is a game. I think they all start off with good intentions for the most part, and then they become corrupt because of all the money and the circles and the, we'll say, rituals and things that they do. So I believe what's happening here is, like he said, he wanted to drain the swamp. People are saying that he's guilty. I've looked into that as well. Yes, he spent time with Jeffrey Epstein, with his wife, and with Ghislaine Maxwell. He also had Jeffrey Epstein at his spa, and Jeffrey stole some people like Victoria Guthrie from the spa to apparently recruit into what he was doing. And it seems like, from what I can gather, Trump was some sort of informant. Now, could he have been acting this way? Could he have been getting close to Epstein for that purpose? He says he's never been to the island. There's no records, as far as anyone can find, of him being on the island. And anything that's come out about emails or anything else is just speculation. There's no proof. So at this point, Trump is looking like maybe he was an inside man, and he's kind of trying to cover himself a little bit, but I don't think it's necessarily from the point of view of him being involved with the children. I think it's from the point of view of him being an informant behind the scenes, because he may have done this in other places too. And then you have people like this who have taken many, many trips. This is Bill Gates, who took 37 private jet trips to Epstein Island. And there's a ton of celebrities, world leaders, You have Prince Andrew, who's already basically denounced the throne and has been forced to step down because of his involvement, and he paid off someone. If that doesn't show guilt, I don't know what does. That's alleged, right? He's allegedly guilty and paid this woman off. He says he's innocent, right? But you start to watch these people squirm in the things they do. Watch their habits, not what they say. I think this goes much bigger than what we're seeing. And I think this cartoon kind of sums it up too. Trump is in the Epstein files. It says Epstein hates Trump, but Trump is mentioned. So we have, like, for example, like Victoria Guffrey's name, it seems like, and I hope I'm saying her name correctly. Is it Victoria? But she, Mrs. Guffrey, was definitely in there. She said he was innocent. She said he didn't do anything to her. He didn't flirt with her. He wasn't forced to have intercourse or anything with her. He didn't force anything on her. She said that. She wrote it in a book. She testified to that. But then you have the Democrats still coming out and attacking, saying, hey, his name's in there. I mean, we'll see what comes out of it, but you have to be really careful with this stuff because it's always a smear campaign. I personally believe that there's a pretty good chance that there's a lot of Republicans, Democrats, celebrities, world leaders. It was a huge operation. Now, there's some supposed ties to intelligence agencies for Jeffrey Epstein. This was a huge blackmail operation. Jeffrey wanted to see who he could get into compromising positions so he could use that against them later, possibly for financial gain, but also for the gain of these other governments. Because if you have dirt on someone, you can force them to do things that they don't want to do.
Ticked off about the lack of outrage, I guess, for the 300,000 kids that are missing in our system right now that have come over the border.
300,000.
You know, everybody's upset about Epstein, which they should be. But where the heck have they been the last 4 years under the Biden administration?
So this is really important. This is the part that I'm really focusing on is there's hundreds of thousands of these children that are unaccounted for, missing, or put into various sort of untrackable situations during the Biden administration. So where did they go? What happened to them? Were they sold into illegal things for children? Were they sold to people to own them? Are they slaves? Are they alive? These are the questions we need to be asking. Like, is Trump in there? Is Clinton in there? All that stuff will come out. But what's more important is who they were harming, the victims. And there could be a lot more victims than what people initially thought. The ones who are coming forward, the ones that are saying they were forced into compromising positions, there may just be a small portion. So now I want you to remember that they had all of these files with no investigations on them at certain points during the Biden administration. And that administration said that they had damning evidence against Trump. They had access to all these emails and everything that are being released now, but nothing happened. I can tell you with 100% certainty, if they had something or have something against Trump, they will use it. They're not going to hold back. They want to get him out of there. He's kind of the anti-politician, right? He does unorthodox things. He doesn't have a political background. He's a businessman. And from what we're hearing, he might be a CIA asset or informant. So they don't want him in there. So I think it's pretty obvious that if they had something over those 4 years, especially since Biden wasn't really running the government, right? That's what they call him autopen, because other people were handling him. They were making decisions for him and signing documents for him. So you're telling me if the entire Democratic Party was in office and Barack Obama was very involved, that they wouldn't have put this stuff out that could completely destroy Trump's political career? Think about that.
The Epstein release has been a roller coaster. Is the ride over? We don't know. We know Democrats think it'll damage the president, but now it's backfiring on them big time. Remember, Epstein was a Democrat. He was a Democrat donor, and he hung out with Democrats and the liberal media at all of his homes. Larry Summers, who worked for both Clinton and Obama, was a pen pal with the pedo, even asking Epstein for dating advice. And now he's stepping down from his gig at Harvard. Oof. Bill Clinton was supposed to testify last month, but his lawyers are playing games. Careful. You can go to jail for ignoring a House subpoena.
Now, this is another thing that's going on is the Clintons may end up going to jail because they're not responding to subpoenas and they're not going to testify. They're refusing to testify. Now, again, watch their behavior. Watch people struggle or squirm as things get closer to them being found out. Now, it's really important to remember, too, that President Clinton, he's not healthy. He's been seen walking around with a defibrillator, and he's fallen, and he just looks generally unwell. But that doesn't protect you from the law. So we'll see what happens with these two, but currently, the Department of Justice is looking into both of them and their involvement with Epstein and other crimes.
What is it about Jeffrey Epstein that's so infuriating to people, so infuriating that it's actually causing seismic political problems? And I hope that they'll address it and it'll get better. I really do. But what is it? I'll tell you what it is. It's the frustration of normal people watching a certain class of people get away with everything every single time. That's what it is.
I think that's certainly part of it. We see the top 1% of people with all the money, all the wealth, all the free time doing these type of things. So is it the fact that they're getting away with it that bothers everyone? I mean, I would think personally, if my children were pulled into this kind of stuff, I'm sure I would immediately be very interested in taking these people out. I can tell you as a father, I care from the point of view of the safety and the permanent damage that is done to these children. And that's for the ones who are alive to talk about it. But I think there is an aspect to what he's saying. They feel like they're untouchable. And I'm sure everyone's heard about this by now. You have this Democrat here who has been caught sending texts to Jeffrey Epstein.
A Democrat has been caught colluding with Jeffrey Epstein several years ago in a hearing with Michael Cohen in an effort to better trap Trump, ultimately resulting in false criminal charges against him. This Democrat, Stacey Plaskett, has now admitted that she was texting with him. We know she was but he was just a constituent. The only problem, Epstein's history was well known. Lawsuits were ongoing. These investigations were launched against him. And more importantly, the big break in the case that ultimately resulted in the rearrest of Jeffrey Epstein came in 2018. Plaskett was texting him in 2019.
And the big thing to remember about a lot of these Democrats that are coming out and trying to pin this on the Republicans and Trump is that a lot of them are implicated in some kind of way, some kind of involvement, reportedly, with Epstein. And also be aware that many communicated with him and spent time with him, even on the island, after he was charged, after he was a criminal for those crimes. So always be aware of what you hear. Don't just blindly take in news. Don't let them control your mind and what you think. Do your research. Look into it yourself. Now, I'm not saying Trump's not in there. I'm not saying Trump didn't do anything. I'm not saying Trump has never done anything. I'm not saying Republicans aren't involved somehow as well. But I can tell you for certain, there's Democrats who are implicated, and the way they're scrambling and the way they're acting looks pretty guilty. If you found any value in this, like, subscribe, and share this around, and I'll see you on the next one.